Hello, and you're very welcome to another episode of Around and About. In this episode, I went out to my good friend Aaron, and we had a lovely chat. I cycled out to Lucan to see him.
It's him. Look, it's him. Wow, it's him. Hey, look, it's him. Who? Him. It's him.
This episode has plenty of swearing and references to drugs, so
I know.
if you don't like that, stop
You
now.
Yeah, I know. So famous, so famous. So famous, so famous. So famous, so famous. So famous, so famous.
Bear in mind that during the course of this project here that I'm going to try and be as open and honest about myself and my experience as possible. I'm going to include all my shitty mistakes. I'm going to try and be the big idiot that I really am and let it all loose. Not try and censor myself too much. So if you do know me in real life and your family or something, you may learn a few things about me.
And
This wasn't recording at all.
wasn't that?
No.
That's funny, man.
Sure, fuck it.
No.
There was no need for me to do that at all. 25 minutes.
Buona vita.
You're on. Oh, shit. When did that happen?
Oh, well, you found out smashed already?
No.
Shit, balls.
Oh, shit, yeah. Sure. That'll happen.
Rule number one, man. Bad shit
I
will
hope
happen,
the
man.
fucking screen still works. Oh, yeah, I was going to show you Phil's song.
Big sexy Bill.
Yeah. That I'm going to use if I can in this.
That's like your intro.
Maybe, yeah. Oh. Isn't it great?
That's lovely, man.
Yeah.
So famous, so famous. So famous, so famous. So famous, so famous. So famous, so famous. So famous, so famous.
It would really add to the grooviness of this podcast.
There's not enough groove, you don't think, man?
Oh no, well, it would add to it at least.
Exactly, like, can you have too much groove,
Yeah.
man? Can you have too much
I don't
groove?
think you can really, like.
No.
If people are boogie and listen to a podcast, it's
Good
you're
shout.
doing pretty well.
That's a good shout, like.
Yeah.
Why isn't he releasing this shit, man? Why do I have to go through you to hear this, man? Why isn't he
I don't know, it just hasn't
should
put it out, yeah.
Put it out, man. Should put it out, like.
Absolutely.
Have you been making any music lately?
Oh yeah, I've been writing a few songs.
Yeah?
Yeah, bits and
Cool.
bobs. Yeah, just fucking. I've actually, that's one of the reasons as well. I've been more creative, or a little bit at least more creative with the freedom and the fucking time and the space and the, not the fucking oppression kind of work. That just always seems to be beaten down on you.
I know, man. I know.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. It has. Same with me, man. Guitar. I'm playing the best guitar I've ever played at the moment, man.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know,
You've had the time, you have the space.
time and space, like writing my own shit, but also learning other people's songs. I had this notion in my head from like a young age in guitar that I just never wanted to learn anyone else's songs. So
Yeah.
it's like I remember fucking watching BB King play, and I'm like, BB King doesn't even play chords, like, I was like, maybe in my head I thought he probably doesn't even know the chords. He probably just knows how to play solo.
Yeah.
And so I remember freaking for like the first few years, it's like I'm not even gonna bother learning anyone else's songs.
Mm.
And then the last like year or so, I started learning other people's songs, and I got so much better at guitar.
Exactly,
I was
yeah,
like,
that
why have I
happens,
been,
yeah.
why have I been holding out on
Yeah,
this
yeah.
fucking? It's so stupid.
No,
like.
no. I do the exact same thing, and I have done the exact same thing. And yeah, I'm probably not as good at guitar as I should be, or yeah,
For how
as I
many
could
years?
be for how many years.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's the thing I'm thinking of. Like.
But
at the same time, yeah, I kind of do think it's once again another ADD thing for me at least.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
what you were saying in your interview,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
You were
This
recently
is
diagnosed.
Yeah. That's grand. Like, it's I'm just.
Does it make more sense, man?
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it just makes
nice.
so much fucking more sense. All the world makes so much more sense. And this is about that. This whole fucking podcast journey, hopefully,
Making
is
sense of
about that. It's not even making sense of it, making, just leaning into it,
Ah.
kind of going with it, and using.
Well, this is what you were saying about like how like like most modern working environments aren't suited for your ADD, and so this is actually like
Pretty
it's
much.
actually like a good way of expressing it, like
Pretty much to a degree, like
instead of
you
fighting
know,
back against it.
Yeah. So like, pretty much all the time, I can't control where my fucking thought process will
Yeah.
go to a degree, and I'll always, I don't always get the same reward response from activities that other people do.
Yeah.
Say like some other person is doing the fucking dishes, and they go from fucking, they get the dishes done, and then they have a fucking hit of dopamine or whatever response chemical goes through their brain that says, oh nice, I accomplished something,
Yeah.
and I don't quite get that. Or I do, but to a lesser degree a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's harder to build habits around it. like,
Yeah, exactly. I don't always get the same reward for activities that other people do, kind of, and it's always
And do you get your reward in different places then?
yeah, pretty much. But I can never really predict it. I can never really, or it's a lot of the time in bad things. So I have a really addictive personality because of that. Because
Oh, so once you find something that
Yeah.
does give you that reward,
Exactly.
Yeah.
You go starved of that reward. When I get into depressive states kind of sometimes because I just can't find anything fully interesting. Because I can't get anything to scratch that itch.
man, that's melancholy, man, by
That's-
definition, like
exactly,
that's
it
the
is,
lack
yeah.
of desire, like
Yeah.
a lack of desire. you
Lack
know?
of desire, yeah, that's melancholy. That's the kind of comorbidities that come around it. Like
I
the kind of
how it expresses itself, like
exactly. The things that come along with it.
Mm.
Anxiety also comes along with it because could be,
Yeah.
but it's but I'll ramble and I'll ramble and I'll ramble, and suddenly I'm not on the same subject at all anymore.
But isn't that what conversation is, man?
It is,
You
it
know,
is, yeah.
If as long as we're not like trying to figure out something very specific, like
Yeah.
what we're gonna have for dinner tonight, then this is like a conversation.
Yeah,
is fucking
exactly.
Where it goes, like
Yeah, but yeah, there's a
But you thought I had ADHD. You thought I had ADD as well,
Yeah,
man. 'Cause I remember you
well,
sent me that
yeah.
that article.
Yeah.
And I remember reading it, man. And it did hit a lot of home truths, like
yeah, it's the kind of thing that I don't have any proof. I don't have any. There's a few people that have said similar things, but I think a lot of people go kind of underdiagnosed, and to a degree, it's like a kind of spectrum of people. Not everybody
Course.
needs medication or to get, even a diagnosis or whatever. It
do
depends.
you need medication?
I think so.
Yeah?
Probably.
Kind
Yeah.
of like speed and stuff. But that's what.
Yeah, it
in
is.
America,
It's just
man,
fucking-
that's what they give you. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a fucking light dose of speed.
Wow. Man.
But back to, remember I was saying you don't quite get that dopamine reward.
Yeah.
So that fucking tiny amount of speed, Ritalin or Adderall or whatever it is, pretty much just, it's actually it's a dopamine receptor,
Okay.
pretty much. That's actually say there's there's dopamine here
Yeah.
going to here.
Yeah. That's your
And
brain, like.
That's your two brain cells.
Yeah.
Communicating with each other, and it goes from here, and it goes out grand.
Mm.
But the thing is that there's loads of these like reuptake valve kind of thing.
Yeah.
On this side, that as soon as the dopamine goes through, it just sucks it right back up.
Oh.
So in my brain, I think at least, there's too many of those, and so every time there's dopamine trying to be transferred from here to here,
It doesn't get all the way through.
it doesn't get all the way through.
That's
And so with the
And that's what a reuptake inhibitor is.
Yeah.
It stops that from fucking going on.
speed Ritalin is reuptake inhibitor.
Damn, man. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
So that stops those extra things that I have from working,
Going off, like.
and so my brain will actually work kind of right.
Right, like, correctly, you know?
Correctly.
Yeah.
So somebody without ADHD would get a bit of a high off of the same amount, or whatever, off of the speed. But I haven't even tried, but I theoretically wouldn't.
Yeah.
That it would just kind of bring me up to the base level.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. That
Yeah.
makes perfect sense, like, you know? That makes perfect sense. You know, it's amazing how, like, at the end of the day, mental health does go down to, like, a biological level, like, you know?
It does, yeah,
You know?
it does. It
It's
does.
amazing how,
And
like,
I've figured out that it's a lot. It's a lot to do with how people are born. You're kind of to a degree born with a personality. You're born with a
disposition.
A disposition.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. People are, and like you can almost categorize those dispositions, and I think we're starting to.
Yeah.
I think ADHD in a way is just a disposition,
Yeah.
is a personality trait that you could probably put other mental disorders or whatever into certain categories like that as well. Like I kind of think that say 100,000 years ago, that may not have been a problem, whatever
No.
way your head was.
No, not in the same way, anyway.
So like I imagine that, if I was living in a hunter-gatherer kind of tribe, that I would I'd nearly be the one who's out wandering and fucking finding new cool shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Who'd be just really curious about shit on the outside of town, and then, I found a fucking orchard of apples or
Yeah.
something, and like I fucking gorge myself on apples for days. you
you know how people-
But like I go back to the town, I'm just like big and fat, like, and I found
every day,
tons of
like.
apples. Come
That's
on
very
over.
good. Or you know, like that. You know, people like, how do we figure out which mushrooms are edible or which mushrooms aren't edible? It's probably people like you, man, going around, fucking mushroom, man.
Mushroom,
Eat
look
it. Sometimes you die and you're like, well, we can't eat
Yeah.
that mushroom. Shit, that Fraser died. But then sometimes you eat it and it's
Yeah.
like, Fraser didn't die.
Exactly.
Now we know where the edible
and then
mushrooms
my
are.
ancestors, they all fucking survived.
Exactly. Full
Everything-
of mushrooms, man.
Full of mushrooms.
Full of mushroom power, like, you know.
But it's also like, you see that kind of person fucking everywhere. Like, there's that kind of trope of the, that dirty poet, dirty kind of, like a lot of creative people, would probably have ADHD,
yeah.
or, they, see drug problems, alcohol problems, fucking.
Which is
these
a way
peop-
of self-medicating.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. These people who, they itch for so much that they have to be on stage, they have to be in front of thousands of people, and like, that's what scratches the itch for them.
Yeah.
And then that's not even enough, suddenly you're onto something more and bigger,
More intense, like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the dirtiness as well. It reminds me of there's this fellow called Quentin Crisp. It's hard to gender them, like, because he only died in like the 90s. He was prolific in like around World War I or II in England. I was watching a couple of interviews, and in it he genders himself as a man. But though
Yeah.
he says in one of his talks, he says that he wished he was born a woman, and that is how he would have liked to have been, and
Yeah.
that's why he feels out of place.
So
I'm not quite sure how to gender
yeah,
them,
to gender if they were alive today.
if they were alive today, exactly. Which is a very interesting thing as well. Like, I was watching this episode of Gogglebox. Do you ever watch Gogglebox?
Yeah, I actually did once or twice,
Yeah?
and I really enjoyed it.
I love Gogglebox, man.
It
Me and
was
my
fucking class, like.
Me and my ma get well down with it. The English and the Irish. But there was the English one, and there was like these two fellas. They were partners. They're not together anymore because one of the guys isn't on Gogglebox anymore. but the other guy is.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. And they were watching some sort of documentary, Channel 4 documentary about transgender kids. And one of the fellas said to his boyfriend at the time that he says, I am a gay man, I'm an effeminate gay man, he says, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
He said, but, he said, if I was a teenager today, he said, I think I'd be transgender.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very interesting, how you can consider himself as an effeminate gay man, but understand that in a different time and place with different circumstances, that he would have quite happily have been considered himself to be a transgender woman, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Quentin. So he when he moved to New York, this camera crew came to visit him. He was a bit older at the time, and his house was an absolute kip. And he says, he's a very witty man, he was saying like, I have a message to the housewives of England. Feel not afraid to, after 15 years of not cleaning my house, it has been as dirty as if I haven't cleaned it for 2 years. After the first 2 years, it merely stays the same. And it's filthy, like, you know. And a genius, but obviously,
you know, like,
he has no, in the same way, he has no will desire to clean that gap.
To do anything other than do what he was interested in.
Anyway,
or,
like,
you know, like, just fucking. Sorry, he was a writer.
It was it's strange.
They were a person.
They were. It's hard to explain. He was a model of sorts.
Yeah.
He was a personality type, I guess. He did write a book called The Naked Civil Servant, which was then made into a film. John Hurt, in fact, actually played Quentin Crisp. Fabulous. John Hurt.
I'll have to watch this.
Yeah, even just for John Hurt alone. He's fabulous, and he plays Quentin like a fucking T. It's quite incredible. So he was famous because during the war, because of his homosexuality, outward homosexuality, he wasn't allowed in the army. And so he spent most of his time during the war working odd jobs and this and that, like you know, engaging in sex work, like so many people of that persuasion often did at the time. Though he said it was the happiest. He said it was the happiest time of his life. He said London was much darker during the war, and he says not in an emotional sense, but in the sense that the lights were off all the time. So you could get away with things a little bit easier that you probably wouldn't have been getting away with when all the lights were on.
I'd say so.
So
there's nobody about.
But
the policemen are fucking outlaws.
Exactly. So he was outwardly. He used to have a beautiful purple quiff and wore makeup, and he said he considered his mere living a form of civil disobedience, a form of protest, because every time he walked down the street dressed as a woman, he says that's a form of protest, and every time a guy came up and punched him in the mouth was a form of counter-protest. And he said, and this was just the political war that was going on, that his mere existence was a form of political protest.
Absolutely,
So it became somewhat famous, and later on the gay liberation movement adopted him as a grandfather, grandmother movement.
Absolutely,
of sorts,
somebody with that much fucking, like, just so proud of who they are, and who just fucking knew that, I'm in the right here.
So famous.
I have a theory that like someone in Fianna Fáil put a curse on Lucan during the 1998 local elections. They probably wanted to be a councillor, but
Don't talk that close.
they probably wanted to be a councillor, but they weren't chosen because they didn't know enough people, or they didn't have enough money to fucking donate or something. So they put a curse on Lucan saying that we're not allowed to have a train station or a swimming pool. And to this day, we have no train station and no swimming pool. But what we do have is a fully functioning shell of a train station.
Shell of a train station right there.
6.8 million to build in 2009, and it is still the one and only last ghost stations in Dublin. Basically, the train goes past here every fucking day, and the train goes past here every fucking day, and it doesn't stop. And the people of Lucan are furious, but it seems like the government is aware of the curse. And they probably didn't realise.
Oh, they don't want to
disturb
that.
the chaotic forces, right?
No.
So what I'll show you later on is the construction of Lucan's first swimming pool. It started construction about a year and a month ago.
Oh fuck.
during mid-construction, COVID hit. Right?
And the curse continues.
The curse continued. Construction was put on a halt. We still have no swimming pool. This is what the spirits understand, man. Right?
Everyone understands.
The government doesn't want to fuck with the curse, so they're
No.
fucking leaving this place closed. They started building a swimming pool. Hubris, man. Hubris.
Yeah.
Trying to fly too close to the sun.
So famous, so famous.
It's funny, man, because the feeling I'm getting from that when you say these things, it reminds me of, I remember I was hanging out in a gaff in Maynooth with my mate Henry, Henry Congton, and we got a call from my friends over in New York, and they're having a mad session, man, like, you know, and we put up the phone call anyway, and Henry was like, God, man, I wish I was in New York with the boys having a mad session. And I was like, Henry, when you're in a fucking gaff in New York on a mad session, it doesn't really matter where you are. All the gaffs are the same. You just want to have a mad session, Henry.
Exactly.
Because once you close that door, sure, it doesn't matter what fucking country you're in. You're in a gaff, you know. And he was like, it's like really, humans are like all these places, right? These important places, spiritual places. All it is just people in rooms talking to people in rooms, man. And the rooms themselves don't really fucking matter, like, you know. I find there's like I get the same feeling as you, man. There's like a fear of the unknown and the distance, but really that's all the space you have, man. Is as far as you can fucking reach out, like, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this much, man. That's you.
Yeah.
You know? Now I would like to be in New York, man.
It would be nice, yeah.
It would be nice, like,
Well,
outside in New York, though.
Yeah, I remember once but I took acid for the first time.
Aye.
Well, it was actually with Macaulay.
Oh, yeah? Ryan or
but-
O'Connor?
Connor.
Mm.
But I remember, still about 6 o'clock in the morning. By then, I was alone, and just in my room, and I was online or something. And then, like, as soon as I was alone, I started feeling lonely. You're fucking high as fuck, and you just want to be cuddling somebody, and then going to sleep like that, and just felt lonely. And you went on whatever fucking Reddit, whatever forums or whatever, and finding who to talk to, and found some acid thing on Reddit, and like so I was probably only 19 or something.
And can you live chat with it?
Yeah, you could live chat.
What you were looking for, was it?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking. I was looking for human contact, and that was the closest thing I could get. Everyone else had gone to bed, like. But, so I was chatting away, and some guy that was there in New York or something, and he was on acid too, and I was chatting away to him, and it was like, I was like, man, I'd love to be in New York. I'd love to be like, that there's so many people around, that there's so much opportunity in such a small kind of place, that there's, so much to do, so much to see, you could run into fucking anybody and have the most amazing night of your life. That was the thought going in my head. And then he was like, man, I'd love to be in Ireland, green fields, fucking nobody for anywhere around,
No, the body.
Yeah, exactly.
Just trying to trip by myself.
Yeah, I
man.
fucking hate this concrete jungle, it's just a concrete wasteland,
Oh, so true, man. So
Yeah,
true.
like, it's, no matter where you are, you'll want to be somewhere different. That's one of the conclusions I've come to, is that no matter where I am, I'll want to be somewhere else. No matter what I'm doing, I want to be almost doing something else. I'll always, the itch will almost always be there.
Brilliant.
Until I find those little things that interest me, and I super focus on that.
Like, to me, man, that's so dialectical, like, like when Marx talks about how the world changes, or even Hegel, how he talks about when the world changes. He says, like, when you have this itch to do something, an itch to go somewhere, let's say fucking you go to Mexico City, man.
Yeah.
You get to Mexico City, the itch is fulfilled, but then it's not like that's
It's
the
not
end.
like the itch goes away.
It doesn't go away. that new itch comes around, and it's not from
Yeah.
Mexico City anymore. It is attached to it because that itch is, you're probably going to go somewhere near Mexico City. That's a new itch, and that's dialectical, man. Things are constantly moving, going on and on and all the way up, and there's no end to it, man. You know, there's no end to it. In fact, I was thinking about doing some CBT. I've done about like I've been doing I did like about a week of it already, like, you know, but on the phone. But I need to do it like face to face. It's so much better face to face.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking up just the history of CBT online, and there was this discussion going on about the differences between cognitive behavioural therapy and psychotherapy.
Yeah.
And they said two of the more like fundamental differences is in CBT they don't really recognise, or rather they don't attribute much value to the unconscious.
Yeah.
They take whatever you're saying at face value, whatever desires you can express, or whatever negative feelings you can express. You deal with what's in front of you, and the belief of CBT is through discussion and through acting out these things and placing them in reality, that in fact you will actually discover things about you that are unknown. But for me, you know, I have certain desires, I have certain things that I want to do, but I don't know if I'm justified in having those desires, or if those desires are actually beneficial to me, or rather if they're just a momentary expression of what my id wants, like, you know.
Yeah.
And so I've been unfortunately, this is, I think in an unfortunate sense, I think this has stopped me from going to CBT, which is a defense mechanism on my part as well, like, you know. But that unconscious, man, that well of desire, man, it's so important to tap into that.
Yeah,
like, you know?
it is. Do you know what what I was chatting about, Alan Watts? That's a big thing that he actually helped me regarding that. Like, he's a big believer in just like Zen Buddhism. Like, the best person doesn't even think of any, you know, like he does, you know, he goes about his life and he doesn't, you know, shy away from the world like some other kind of Buddhist,
like the ascetics.
Yeah. But like they decide they don't want choice. They don't want to decide anything. They believe in deciding as soon as you're doing the action. It's like as if you're drawing the bow. You don't like draw the bow, then aim, then shoot. It's all one thing. It's all one thing. That's all the act of shooting an arrow.
There's no moment that you can delineate and say.
Yeah, so like
I see.
as soon as you have the thought to let go of that bow, you do it. You know, those two should be kind of one. That like you cannot know all of the results of what you are going to do. You know, when you're trying to decide about something, you're like, oh, but it could be great, oh, but it could be bad, and you're constantly bouncing. You're bouncing from one side to the other. He says that people, with anxiety, that's what they're doing. They're constantly bouncing. They're like, oh, I don't know, humming and hawing all the time.
He's a bit indecisive. Well, he is and he isn't. You know?
Yeah. And that, he says that like when a bird flying up above casts a shadow on the ground, he doesn't decide to do that. It just happens. You know,
that's true,
that kind of thing. You know. Yeah, Tassa.
As a human, we'd put symbolic value on the shadow of, well, you can't cast shadows over there, man. You can't cast shadows over here, like,
yeah,
you
don't, decide to cast your shadow. You just do it. You know, you're walking by a mirror. You know, it just your reflection just appears as you do.
I like this.
You
one.
know,
There's but it reminds me of a critique of Zen, Zen Buddhists that I always fancied. I remember getting this off Slavoj Žižek. He talks about this Zen, I won't say philosopher, like Zen teacher or whatever, who became extremely popular in America in the 60s. He would have been the one who would have brought Zen into America. He wrote a book during World War II, because he would have been a younger man around there, and he would have been in his like 30s or so. And he wrote his book during World War II because a lot of soldiers in the Japanese army were Zen Buddhists. Yeah. And they were looking for a religious justification for what they were going to do in war. And your man wrote down his book and he says, don't worry, as a soldier, as a Zen soldier, don't imagine you killing an enemy, but rather picture this. You're in a room, he's got a blade, you got a blade. Don't imagine it's your hand with the blade stabbing him, but rather imagine your ego dispersing, and your hand and the blade are one within the cosmos you are one, and these are just floating atoms within the cosmos.
Yeah.
And as your hand does this cosmic dance, don't imagine it as your hand, but rather this is just moving around, and it happens to land in this soldier. And so what he's trying to say is depersonalize yourself from the act. Consider yourself one with the universe, and so it's not really you stabbing him.
Yeah.
He just happens to be stabbed.
Yeah.
You know?
So,
And I was like, that's amazing, man, because of course they have to justify war. Even the description you use with the bow and arrow,
Yeah.
I don't think that's out of place. I think
Maybe not, yeah,
I think in war is one of that flow state you get in fighting, for example. I think that could be very zen, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why martial arts and fighting and the Shaolin monks. There's a reason why fighting and zen go together. Like, you
Yeah.
know?
So famous.
Actually, do you have any idea what actually makes an interesting podcast? Like, I don't know whether or not just talking shite is grand or not. It can be.
I know what you mean, man.
You know, like
You need-
your podcast is to a degree talk, and I'm not saying this in a bad way.
I
You
feel
know, it's great talking shite,
Yeah.
but in a way, it's talking shite. And I do like. I just saw a couple of times, you know, that some meme, and it's just like, oh, me and my friends, let's make a podcast together. You know, like.
talk shite,
Of course, we'll be hilarious. We find each other hilarious.
How can two white lads solve all the problems in the world? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
solve them right here, like,
Yeah,
what I say is, man, snappy cuts,
Snappy cuts.
quick cuts, man. Right?
Quick cuts, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of I think editing is actually the biggest thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for example, when I show you like a couple of spots in Lucan, right? What you could.
Could you move closer? Sorry.
Of course, man, of course. So for example, when I show you like a couple of spots in Lucan, what you could do is like all you could like say, this is such and such place, and give you like literally like a 30-second descriptor.
Yeah,
And then it cuts out straight away, like, you
Yeah.
know. That's what I mean. Rather than lingering on it, like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then combine that with a bit more long form.
Yeah.
I think you have a mix. And then obviously.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you could keep it interesting, and yeah, we could go from topic to topic.
Topic.
Yeah.
It could be interspliced with you cycling.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, keep
So
it.
it's not just one block of thing, like.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be very good actually. Sounds like a lot of work though.
Well, man, I all my favorite podcasts, man,
Yeah.
and it's something that we were trying to figure out by the end of
Yeah.
Pure Class Struggle is cuts, like, you know,
Yeah.
it's quick cuts,
Yeah.
you know. But
Um,
have you ever hear of this podcast? It's called a podcast but outside. You ever seen it?
Oh no.
I'll send it on to you, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's my favorite podcast at the moment. And it is lads just kind of talking shite. They basically set up like their little table, and
Yeah.
people walk past, and then they interview them. And,
Oh.
And they do it across like California and stuff. But they've been
Oh.
doing it through the pandemic. And
Class.
it's really class, man. And
That sounds a lot like what I'm interested in doing.
yeah, exactly, because you're just meeting random people.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of shit.
Like I just randomly met you here.
Exactly, man. Exactly. They did like they've done like 100 episodes, right? And
Yeah.
they had like this running joke that they really want to interview John Hamm, you know. from
Oh,
fucking
yeah, yeah,
Mad
yeah.
Men. But they're like a tiny podcast. You only get like fucking on YouTube. They only get like at the beginning it was only getting like 1,000 views or so, maybe 500 views.
Yeah.
Last month it was getting like 7,000 views, 8,000 views, but still small.
Mm.
And on episode 100, who fucking shows up but John
Ah,
motherfucking Hamm?
fuck.
That he's out interview him, and I'm watching this going because they played some tricks before, man, where they've gotten people who actually have
Look like him or something.
look like him. So I'm thinking this is one fucking great John Hamm double, right?
Yeah,
this is like
yeah,
the
yeah.
best John Hamm.
Or it's him himself. Like.
I know. I honestly didn't think it was him himself because they're too small of a
Yeah.
podcaster to get John Hamm. They're like and the guy who was fucking sitting there telling me he's John Hamm was a bit overweight. I was like, and he was wearing his mask and he has his glasses on.
Yeah,
So I was
yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
nah, man, this is
Nah.
it's Hollywood. If you're gonna be able to find a John Hamm double
Lookalike,
anywhere,
yeah,
it's gonna be
yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so I was listening to the interview, and they were chatting for a long time, and I was laughing along, man. I was like, this John Hamm, not only is he a fucking great double, he's so
Yeah.
funny as well,
Yeah,
and he's
yeah,
such a good
absolutely.
talker. And I'm like, how is this going on? Like, And at the very end of it, I was like, this is actually, I typed in John Hamm, trying to find a photo of him like during the pandemic, and I found one of him. And John Hamm put on a ton of weight. And I was like, no way, man. This was
just
John.
for a film. It's for a film.
It was fucking John Hamm the whole time. So I had to rewatch the whole podcast. But this time, knowing that it was actually John Hamm.
Yeah.
So, it's fucking, I'd
That's
highly
great.
recommend watching it, man.
Yeah, that sounds great. That is, it sounds a lot like what I want to do. Because it'd be great to be able to have a friendly cover. Like, imagine if I could just find some randomer in fucking, I don't know, Cork or something, who's the equivalent to you.
Yeah.
You know, some fella who's, you know, like you, really friendly and talkative and everything, and, you know, have a nice philosophical fucking mad chat with him for fucking an hour or whatever.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Questions, man. Having good questions.
Yeah, that'll
know,
be
like,
that'll be a big thing.
Basic, who are you? Where you from?
Yeah.
You know,
Uh,
and then whatever their answer is, you just go, because I'm your mate, so I'm quite open.
Yeah.
But someone might just give you like a 2-sentence answer to the
yeah,
question.
exactly. Yeah.
So knowing how to ask questions like
Yeah.
is important.
As well, yeah. I don't know how to fucking. Yeah, that can be tough.
You
It'll
know.
be hard as well to get people open.
Hmm.
It depends on who it is. Some people are just fucking open from the start, like.
That might be good as well. Like I was saying about the snappiness. An hour conversation.
Yeah,
would be
but I
good,
might be having 2-minute conversations as well, like.
You know, and that's not gonna get boring.
Yeah.
You know, no one's gonna get bored from it
Yeah.
after 2 minutes.
And
you
as
know?
well, I think the best thing is, hopefully, if I get fucking bored or fucking sick of talking to people, I can just go on a, like, I don't know, a fucking historical tour or something like that. Whatever I want to, you know.
Yeah.
I've actually been toying with the idea of, I saw it somewhere. It's the quest for beauty. You know, going on a quest for beauty, pretty much. Like, you know, not inner beauty, you know, but like, you know, because I already have that, you know, yeah.
Straight up.
But to like find beauty, you know, to just go out and, you know, like, I don't know, just find something. You can look anywhere, you know, if you can find beauty just right down here, like,
That is
you
pretty
know. But it's a quest, yeah, to. I don't know, yeah, he was kind of on thought that, you know, people need to go on quests more.
I like the idea of a
Yeah.
quest, man.
Yeah.
You know, the hero's journey, as John Campbell, was it?
Yeah. Ideally, this right now will be a hero's journey.
Yeah.
Around a month from now, I should meet an old man, an old wise man, blind, yeah, who's has unorthodox ways. Oh, but he knows so much.
Wise old man.
And he'll teach me things.
I love that trope, man. Of the blind woman, like, you know.
Yeah.
There's like this there's this theory that in Homer's Odyssey, all the evil and disgusting creatures that he meets along the way are actually the symbolic, disembodied versions of pre-civilized gods and goddesses who at one point in time wouldn't have been interpreted so negatively, like, you know. And in fact, Homer represents this more civilized Greek society, casting away these demigods and forest gods in favor of the new, more civilized, humanized gods. You know, the animated versions. And so stuff like you can quite easily imagine someone like the sirens, for example, who are famed for their beauty, not necessarily being where ships crash and men die, but actually representing something more positive about that time, like, you know, or the Oracle of Delphi, for example, you know, losing both of her eyes and casting wisdom, you know, like who was she beforehand, like, you know, she could have represented the knowledge of maternal instincts and it's flipped on its head, like, you know.
But it'll get flipped on its head again and again by each and every generation, really. Like, you know, these things will always morph and change, and I'm sure the ideas of, you know, Zeus or whoever is much different now than it is it was back in the day. Like,
and we probably bastardised what they
yeah,
did as well.
absolutely, absolutely. Or got a sense of it, yeah, not quite the whole picture. Yeah, but it is. I love it. Yeah, Greek mythology and stuff. How, you know, it's not so much this, you know, Christian whitewashed version of humanity kind of. It's, you know, these gods are just the exact same. They represent our worst parts.
Of course, man.
And our best parts, you know.
Of course.
I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about, like, there's so many different, you know, kind of personality types, and it's very hard to group any one person into any one, you know, category. But, you know, the Greek gods do that so well. You know, they have the fucking, you know, the father figure Zeus or whatever. Like,
Archetypal.
yeah, archetypes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the
yeah.
word I'm going for.
Very Jungian.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he went mad for that.
He loves all that stuff, man. He loves all that.
Yeah, I keep on realizing that. Yeah, all these ideas I have, they tend to be. I'd say I must pluck them from the world somehow, of course. And it's probably, if I root them back, I could probably trace those ideas to you.
They say you don't lick it off a stone, but if you
No.
lick a stone long enough, man, you'll start thinking about stones.
Yeah.
You know? Like, God, this stone is fucking delicious, man.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, I've read a bit of Young, man. I think he's like there's something definitely there, like, you know. I think, but I'm always curious if it's rather that kind of archetypal way of looking at the world. If that in itself is a belief that we have just been, what's the word for it? We've been looking for it, so therefore we've been finding it, rather than it's actually there. It's hard to explain what I mean, like, you know, but it's hard to explain what I mean, like, you know, especially with a joint thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's one thing as well. If I can need to, just as usual, woke up and started smoking away, and, you know, terrible for doing a podcast and shit. Like,
Well,
maybe good, maybe
Snoop
alright.
Dogg seems to manage it.
He
man.
does, yeah,
He
yeah.
seems to manage it pretty well.
Yeah, not necessarily. I don't know.
Like, I woke up maybe like 2 hours before you stalled down, man. I haven't fucking eaten yet either, like, you know. So we'll actually get some food.
Yeah,
in
we'll
the
go
shop
get
as
some
well.
food. Yeah, I could do with eating.
Definitely, man. Well,
So I'll start packing up.
yeah, right on.
And,
So that's that anyway. Thank you very much for listening. I'd like to thank Aaron for chatting to me. I'd like to thank Aaron as well for the lovely German army jacket that he gave me. Isn't it beautiful? And I'm on my way to Waterford now over the next few days, so bear with me and I'll put out some content regarding that. Thank you for listening. I got some Patreon page and buy me a coffee page as well. I'm gonna put those in the description, and if you could give me money, that'd be very sound. If you wanted me to survive, you know, throw us £2. If you want me to get like a new camera or anything over the next few months, throw me a few more quid. Thank you.
God, that'll eat.